that's nice. The sound of a baseball hitting the inside of a glove. One loyal FT fan yesterday said, were you guys aware there's a team in camp as of Sunday? Not one shot from Arizona. Did you even mention it? One picture of a random player during a combo about uniforms. What the heck, boys? It's baseball season. I'm going to take that in a positive and be like, let's go, Stealthy Jim. Here it is. Little ASMR to start off the show. I do think we mentioned it yesterday and said, bye, football. See you never. But hello, everyone. Braun, Pierzynski, and Kratz. It's a nice sound, though. Pierzynski.
I'm gonna let Kratz go first because this guy's about to get it.
Uh-oh.
I love when baseball starts. I love the crack of the mitt. It's funny that they're doing it on a lined football field at the end of football season. You know, it's the agility fields. But now there's always music playing and everything. Spring training is so exciting to me.
Spring training sucks. But as a former player, I hate it. Spring training. But what was that guy's name? What was his screen name? I just wanted to
Stealthy Jim.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
Cubs Vikes. Okay, first of all, you're a Cubs fan, clearly. So that's enough said with that. Second of all, you're from Chicago and you're a Vikings fan. Another thing, enough said. So clean it up, Jim, Stealthy Jim. And then finally, all we've talked about for 2 weeks is we can't wait until football is over and we can talk baseball and everyone's getting ready to report. And we had Jameson Ty on live from Cubs camp. And we've had guys every day talking about when they're leaving to go to spring training. So, yeah, I think we've discussed it just a little bit. Yeah, we haven't shown anybody because we're not there, but we are going to camps soon enough. But we're not going to go to camps when nobody's there, Jim. So clean up your fandom, Jim, and clean up your tweets.
MLB also tries to block like any highlight that anyone posts, which is the weirdest thing of all time. We could do 8 hours on the background of that because other leagues don't do that. But that's for another day. But Jim, we are with you. We love that noise, except for AJ, because he loves that noise when it's the regular season. So this is the other thing, and then we'll start on the signing. We do have a distraction, and it's called off-season trades and signings. They're still happening, and that's what causes this little mess that we have right now. I will say it's not the worst thing in the world because sometimes spring training in terms of news can get slow. So we do still have a lot of activity. We're still going to cover, I would say, at least 20 major league signings. Some of them might be small, right? Like we might just spend a couple minutes later on in the show, maybe even during commercial break, going over Scott Barlow. But the headliner here, let's charge the damn mound. We have a double-digit million signings.
Charging the mound.
Double-digit millions signing. 1 year, $10 million. Kenley Jansen to the Angels. Ben Joyce is a stud. Now he's going to move back a little bit, let him kind of simmer and learn in a high leverage role. Also, smash his arbitration number down because he won't get as many saves. But I want to do the positive first. Yes, exactly. That's why we bring up everything on this show. The positive first, AJ. The Angels have been more active than probably 25 other teams this offseason. And even though it's not a super attractive roster, they're at least trying, which is what we said about the Royals last year. I'm not trying to make a comp, but the Royals tried last offseason, and how did that go for them?
Well, they made the playoffs, but let me see this. Who'd you mention? Joyce, right? Ben Joyce?
Ben Joyce throws a billion.
132 miles an hour. He should be the closer. I love Kenley Jansen, but why? If you're the Angels and you're an Angels fan, why do you sign this guy? Don't you want Ben Joyce to learn how to close games? He's going to be your closer of the future. They pretty much already said that. By the way, what a beautiful picture here in Stark Vegas. But
yeah,
I mean, the leaves are not looking like that today. But I mean, seriously, if you're the Angels fans, why are you excited about this? I mean, nothing. This is not a knock on Kenley Jansen at all. I love Kenley. Great guy. He's come on the show. He's awesome to talk to. But why? I just don't understand this. If you have Ben Joyce, you're probably not going to win this year in that division. So why bring in Kenley Jansen? Yes, I know you want him to teach Ben Joyce how to do it and this and that. But wouldn't you rather have Ben Joyce in safe situations, getting the ball in the ninth inning, trying to learn how to save games on the field, rather than have Kenley Jansen say, all right, kid, go get the eighth for me so I can clean up the ninth? And yes, it is a way to also hold down his salary a little bit because he's not going to rack up the saves that he should, and he'll just get holds instead.
I'm hard against you on this one only because I would rather have both. And now we do have both. If it's other positions, I'm
But
different.
Kenley's not going to pitch the eighth. But Kenley's not going to want to pitch the eighth. He wants to close games because he's thinking about his Hall of Fame resume, right? That's the thing to me. So he wants to close, but I'd rather have Ben Joyce as my closer of the future, which they all said he is. I want him to close games. I want him to start out closing games because he needs to learn how to close games. He needs to learn when he blows one how to bounce back. He needs to learn how to, I came in with a 1-run lead and second and third, no outs, how to get out of it, stuff like that. Anyone can talk about it, but until you've actually done it, it's different.
But the Angels want to make some noise, at least in the first half, Kratz. And then if things turn out like perfectly, Trout's back, thriving. I don't know, Rendon finds it. Yoan Moncada is the next big thing. Everything works out for them. Cool, it's a great story. And then they have a deeper bullpen. If it doesn't, perfect guy to trade at the deadline.
Oh, definitely perfect guy to trade. Did you know Kenley's middle name is Geronimo? Just found that out today. Just look that up. That's like a pretty freaking cool fact. But he said on our show, he said, I want to go back to LA. Last year when he was with Boston and everybody freaked out, oh, he doesn't want to be here, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say he wanted to go back to the Dodgers. He said he wanted to go back to LA here on the show. And to me, the $10 million says there was other teams that were interested, because you look at it, you say, man, there's some teams that could really use a closer, back end of the bullpen kind of guy. But what AJ said, building his resume, I can't wait till he's back on again. But I would love to know if other teams maybe were better teams, maybe more playoff contending teams than the Angels, didn't offer him the guaranteed closer role, just offered him a back end spot.
Now, my question is,
yeah,
no, but I'm going to say this. Weren't the Red Sox, everyone in the chat is like, oh, they're going to trade him in July. Wasn't that supposed to be the plan for the Red Sox last year and he didn't get traded? So don't always say, like Aroldis Chapman with the Pirates, right? That was another one. Rowdy Tellez. We've talked about some of these guys. They don't end up getting traded, and then they end up going down and getting stuck, in a team that doesn't end up doing anything. That was the plan for Ken. I mean, all we heard last year at the trade deadline, Kenley Jansen to this team, Kenley Jansen to this team, Kenley Jansen here, there. Not necessarily. So don't get all excited, because Angels fans, that they're going to trade him and get something, because they might end up keeping him. And listen, again, I love Kenley Jansen. I hope he has a great year. But I just think for the team in this situation, unless he's going to mentor him and not pitch the ninth, I think you need Ben Joyce, though, in the ninth inning.
Even a guy like Kimbrel came up to the big leagues. Like, he was one of the only guys in my time playing that I saw in AAA as a closer, went to the big leagues as a closer, and obviously had a Hall of Fame type of career. His first 20 innings, he wasn't closing. So maybe that's kind of the thought process, but I'm more on the camp of, like, look, like this is completely holding his salary down. They're able to have another back-end reliever, and they don't really care if Ben Joyce doesn't get the saves, because that's value in their pocket. Oh, and then second full season in the big leagues, then he gets his saves and starts racking them up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could get dealt if they have a really bad first half pretty easily, and if he's good. If he looks like he does the last 2 years, he's got value. I see what you're saying about Chapman, for example, AJ, but the Pirates thought they were in it. Even if we didn't and no one else did, they did acquire help, right? They got Brian De La Cruz, who was mostly terrible for them, and they picked up IKF, who was some depth. For the Pirates, that is what they call pushing their chips in. So that's why they weren't going to trade someone like that away.
What about the Red Sox?
What it is.
What about the Red Sox and Kenley last year?
The Red Sox have been weird for trade deadlines for years, and I don't know what's going on with them, right? This has been like 3 or 4 years in a row now, and people were blaming Bloom in the past. I start to think that maybe there are just too many cooks in the kitchen on decisions like that, but maybe it'll change now. Also, I don't think they were completely out. Did they sell? Did the Red Sox sell? No. So that's really what it comes down to. If you're a clear-cut seller at the deadline, this is an easy conversation. You're at July, whatever, end of July. He's got $4-ish million left on the deal. And if he looks like he usually does, that's an easy trade away for the Angels and pick up a prospect for a team that Baseball America just ranked as the 30th best farm system. There's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. That's not good. So I give them credit because I want them to at least give the fans a reason to come to the ballpark. Their owner, Artie Moreno, likes names. Kenley is a name. I bet you there's just like a little, actually, there's probably a lot inside of him that says, I'm going to get that Dodger guy. I'm going to bring him over here. I mean, look at the Dodgers 12 years ago and the Angels, and now where those two franchises are. The Dodgers have been a powerhouse. Now they just won a World Series. They've got star power. The Angels are in a big market. I mean, they could do more, and they're in Los Angeles. Their team. And they're in LA.
They're in Los Angeles somehow, some weird way. But
yeah, they're the LA Angels.
Listen, I'll say this, which is still one of the craziest things of all time. But I will say this: Ron Washington wants to win. He wants to win. I think he only signed a 2 or 3 year deal. They didn't do so good last year. He needs to win. He needs to win and figure it out. So yeah, Ron Washington's like, give me Kenley Jansen, give me Tim Anderson. I can fix him. Give me Yoan. Give me Anthony Rendon healthy. Give me Yoan Moncada.
He didn't say that.
No, well, I'm just saying. I mean, somebody said it. They gave him $5 million. So I don't know, but it's crazy to me. It's crazy. I mean, listen, Washington wants to win, so he's like, bring veterans. I don't want to deal with the young guys. You got to teach them, which Ron Washington's great at. But you usually have a better chance of winning if you have veteran guys that have been there and done that.
Can we agree on this? Here's how I want to finish the point, because I think that the way we look at off seasons has changed. So many teams do nothing in an embarrassing fashion that I don't want to smash a team for trying and doing things. Now, in the past, when more teams were involved in off seasons, you could be more critical and be like, I like the way they spent. I don't like the way they spent. But nowadays, it's like half the teams do nothing. So I'm going to say the half the teams that do nothing are down here. The teams that do something that I like are here. And I'm going to say there's the teams in the middle where I'm like, at least they improved their roster. Is it how I would have spent their money? Not necessarily, but that's my point. It's a top 10 offseason. They have had a top 10 offseason. Maybe top 5. It's close.
I give them a B. They have a closer. Okay. They have a bona fide power threat. Justin Jorge Soler and Kenley Jansen, whatever you think of them as players, those are 2 bona fide positions in the game, on the field, whatever you want to say, that will positively affect the team. And they made those moves.
Do you guys want to see how it affects their PECOTA projections? We're going to go over that next with Craig Goldstein. Well, we'll let you guys have fun together. AJ and Craig Goldstein taking over the next segment. Craig coming from Baseball Prospectus, leading the charge there. We'll be right back. FT fam, do you want your own personal shopper? The answer, Hungryroot. Not only can they get you the groceries that you want, but you know an underrated meal that sometimes can be annoying, AJ?
Whatever you bring in my house and leave on the counter?
Lunch. Lunch sometimes can actually be a little bit frustrating where you're like, I'll just do a snack. I don't have time. So you can get those ready-made quick hitters from Hungryroot that I know you've been dominating.
Oh, listen, I love Hungryroot because it's good food. It's healthy food. And plus, you know what else I love? They send you random snacks in there, which are great when you have teenagers that just come in and eat all day long. So I love it. And their food is perfect for me for lunch before the show when I am home because it's no decisions. I don't have to think about what to cook. They send you options and you just pick one of the options and it's done in like 10 minutes. And it's good. It's good and healthy. It's tasty and healthy, which I love, obviously. But it is perfect for lunch. Dinner, got teenagers at home. But for lunch, money.
No artificial sweeteners, no preservatives in any of their food. They're only sourcing top quality meat and seafood free of hormones and antibiotics. He stole your thunder, Kratz, so I'm going to go right to it. You're going to love Hungryroot as much as AJ does. Take advantage of this exclusive offer for a limited time. 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life at hungryroot.com/FT. Use code FT. That's hungryroot.com/FT. And then when you're checking out, use the code FT. It's 2 letters. F as in Frank, T as in territory. Hungryroot.com/FT. Be right back, FT fam, to go over the baseball prospectus PECOTA projections with the man behind the scenes who helps to make it happen. All right, we're back with Craig Goldstein. Go check out Baseball Prospectus, super smart content. Get yourself a little subscription, give a little money towards the cause there. They do awesome work. Craig, great to have you on. Excited to get into PECOTA projections. How are you? And how is the fan feedback every year when those get unveiled? I feel like that's the time when BP really shines.
I'm doing all right. Thank you guys for having me on. I loved, by the way, all the hearts coming down on the interstitial there. I know it's because you guys are so excited to talk about our projections. You love them so much. The fan feedback is always, look, I love interacting with people. I love hearing people's opinions. I never mind it when they come out. I love to know what people think. It's always at the end of the season when people go back and find the post, the projections and dunk on them. That's the tougher part.
Right. They're not going to point to anything that worked. They're just going to go back and find things that did not turn out. The
2021
well.
Giants, we got dunked on constantly, and it was like, I don't know that anyone saw those guys coming. The 107-win season from them, but we heard about it at the end.
Of course. Did Royals fans come after you too last year?
No, not last year, but we have a history with KC and Baltimore. We can get into what the projections tend to miss on, but teams with good bullpens that tend to overperform, we hear from them quite a bit.
Okay, so go ahead, Kratz. You can jump in.
Yeah, no, I mean, what is the projection normally miss on? Because I was a Brewer for like 6 minutes, and PECOTA either stands for something that I don't know of, or PECOTA not going to pick the right amount of wins for the Brewers. Historically, you have to almost put in a Brewer caveat into your algorithm, which I hope we get into later.
Yeah, we've been wrong on the Brewers quite a bit. We had an article within the last couple of years looking at all our misses and who tends to overperform the most. Milwaukee was up there, Baltimore up there. And again, you talk about bullpens, right? KC, if you want to go back to the mid 2010s, the World Series teams, we missed on those quite a bit as well. Look, when you lock it, you look at our projections right now. You can go to our standings site, and we project, even 81.6 wins for somebody or something like that. That's obviously you can't get part of a win. So when you have a good bullpen and you can win a game by 1 run, by 2 runs consistently, you're going to start outperforming your projections because they use runs scored versus runs allowed as the basis for how to divvy up the wins. So if you're blowing teams out and then losing close games, you're going to look really good in projections. But it's going to struggle with a team. You go back to, there's a Diamondbacks team a while back that actually won 92 games, I think, while being outscored on the season. That's something that's really going to struggle with. And it's both good bullpens and also good bullpen management, right? It's how the manager is going to deploy these guys. Is he using his best guys in tight games to bridge to the 9th, fireman roles, that type of stuff, versus if they're down by 2, maybe they're not necessarily trying to keep it close, and they allow more runs. Their run differential gets worse, but it's still just 1 loss, right? That's the reality of it. Every game is 1 win or 1 loss, but that's not how it works in the Pythagorean theorem in terms of getting win-loss records and things like that. And that's what projections are based off of ultimately.
But how can you project the Brewers bullpen? Everybody was DFA'd by another team, so there's no way of looking And you had a new manager of how he deployed. Does it just overall general say, okay, well, this is how they deployed their bullpen, even Craig Counsell gone, Pat Murphy in, just as an organizational philosophy?
So we don't like to put our thumb on the scale of, I mean, look, it's very easy for you or I, and I'll sit here and I'll look at our Brewers projection of 81 wins right now, or 80 and a half, 81 and a half. I look at it and think they're going to outperform that, because I understand historically, even with the transition from Craig Counsell to Pat Murphy, they've really done a great job finding these guys that they pull out of other people's, like you said, DFA, even in trades. Joel Payamps, right, was a throw-in that Esteury Ruiz trade where they got William Contreras, but he's been great for them. They have a number of guys that they either call up. Aaron Ashby was really good out of the bullpen, even though he struggled as a starter. But if we put our thumb on the scale and say we're gonna adjust for that, you have to start doing it everywhere, and it gets a little bit messy. I think what the value in projections are providing a perspective based on the numbers only, and we're not dismissing our intuition, our perspectives. There are things that people understand that these numbers are not going to, right? If someone makes a swing change mid-season, the numbers aren't the projections are going to rely on the numbers from the full season. And if we understand that there is a narrative that goes along with the change in production, maybe we can jump ahead of what the projection is going to see in something like that. And it's the same thing with bullpens. If a guy adds a pitch, and that's something that, again, Milwaukee is consistently really good at being able to do. Find guys without the past production that the projection is going to rely on, and then turn them into something going forward. I mean, again, Trevor McGill is another example of something like that. Elvis Peguero is another example of someone like that. And they just do it constantly. And it's a credit to them, right? I mean, it's something we really respect, but we can't put our thumb on the scale for them and their bullpen management and not do it for everyone else. And I think that ends up kind of devaluing what the perspective is that projections give us. We don't have to take them for granted. I mean, we don't have to take it as gospel or anything like that, though.
Okay, before I start digging into these divisions, Craig, I just want you to know, Scott Barlow hates run differential. And that's what it seems like your whole thing is based off of. So Scott Barlow, therefore, hates baseball perspective in their PECOTA.
You can bring me in then. I mean, you're not going to get to say
does he not hate run differential? Does Kratz, does he always say, doesn't matter.
Wait, this is a big day, Craig, because usually AJ will say something that is the opposite of what I believe in, but I actually am not a fan of Pythagorean theorem. I can't even pronounce it, because sometimes you'll catch that Cubs 17-2 win over the Pirates, and I'm like, cool, this is going to mess so much stuff up, and I don't really care, and I'm watching, the last pitcher there who's just called up, who's going to get optioned, just wear it and eat it. And I feel like that happens enough for me to say, I'm watching every day. I know that I can't watch every team all the time. I feel like there are better stats for me to be able to determine who's good and who's not. That's just me.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I think it's complicated, right? Run differential isn't necessarily going to tell you who's the best in the moment. It's again, like you said, it's 17-2, but it's one win, it's one loss. You can flush it, right? If you lose 17-2, you flush that, you come back the next day, it doesn't actually matter. The argument is that over the course of a season, your margin of victory or margin of defeat is indicative of the overall talent. There are obviously exceptions to that, right? I mentioned the Diamondbacks winning 90-plus games with a negative run differential. That doesn't mean they were bad. It might mean that they were doing something that run differential isn't going to account for. And so we have to be aware of that, right? As much as we focus on advanced stats, as much as we care about and want to have faith in our projections, and we do, we also know they're going to be wrong. And they're going to be wrong from, we're going to miss playing time. We're not going to project that correctly for a number of reasons. And again, there are flaws with run differential. It is a basic way to have an idea of who can be good going forward, I think, but especially early in the season, it's not especially meaningful. And I understand taking issue with it and saying that, again, this guy who's going to wear it and get sent down the next day and we're not going to see him the rest of the season. Yeah, you have to take that into account. But it's we just use the largest data set that we can, and that's all the numbers that we have, and that's what we go off of.
Got it. All right. Well, now that you ruined Scott's life, thank you for doing that, because we always talk about run differential. So thank you. I appreciate that, Craig. Now let's dig into some divisions here.
Yeah.
Because I have to look at a certain thing. And the one I'm going to first is an AL Central. I'm an AL Central homer. Now I get the White Sox, by the way. Only losing 100.5 games is pretty ridiculous. Maybe they'll be that good. Maybe they won't. I don't know. They lost 121 games last year. So you're calling for almost a 20-plus game improvement, and they sold everybody and down their payroll. But that's not important. The important thing is you have a team, Minnesota, that did not make the playoffs, projected ahead of 3 teams that made the playoffs, and added this offseason. What the heck is going on, Craig? Because run differential doesn't tell that story.
Yeah, no, you're right. So the projections, run differential is part of it, but that's what the wins and losses come out of. The projections are based on what we have. We do individual player projections; they get added up, and then that projects out for the runs scored and runs allowed, and then that's backed out into the wins and losses that you see. I think the AL Central is a mishmash of a lot of these teams, right? I understand Detroit fans are going to look at this and say, we have a team on the rise. We just made the playoffs. Now you're projecting us under 500. It's very feasible that this Detroit team would be well over 500. I think any of those 4 teams can win the division. But when you look at Minnesota, I think you go back to last year, they had a lot of bad luck, and they were in a playoff spot really late into the season, and they had a collapse. And obviously we saw the other 3 teams make the playoffs there. But they have a strong pitching staff from the rotation all the way through to the bullpen. They have a lot of high-octane arms that are really good in that bullpen as well. And then if you look at their hitters, it's still a pretty good lineup. Obviously, you have to account for how much time Carlos Correa might potentially miss. Byron Buxton is going to miss sometimes, but they did just add Harrison Bader, and how much time Royce Lewis is going to miss. And I think that's the big question. But they were hammered by injuries last year. They could get hammered by injuries this year again. We like to say the best indicator of future injury is past injury. But that being said, I think they had a fair amount of bad luck that last year, and asking the other Central teams to do what they did, look, Cleveland has added some. They brought in Carlos Santana, but they've subtracted quite a bit as well, shipping out Andres Jimenez. They lost Alex Cobb. They lost Matt Boyd. So they're going to have to backfill in a number of spaces as well. And Kansas City, one of the most interesting things about Kansas City to me is they had 6 starters all of last year, and that was by choice. They probably could have gone 5 the whole way if they didn't bring in Michael Lorenzen to supplant Alec Marsh. Are they going to get all of those starts from 5 to 6 guys? Because the depth behind them in the rotation is concerning. And we do try and project, teams are going to generally miss starts from their rotation, right? So the guys backfilling those starts don't have great projections.
Okay. Is there an injury? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, we were just talking about Kenley Jansen signing with the Angels. How much have you ever seen, or how much does one person's signing with the team affect your new projection? Obviously, you're not putting out a brand new for the entire league because certain teams go, but is there a player that really shifted? Because you have them at 73 and a fourth, 73.4 wins. And, how much does that move the needle for a team like the Angels in a premium position at closer?
It's a premium position, but it's also a position that just generally doesn't move the needle very much because it's so few innings on the whole, right? Even if he throws a lot of innings, you're talking in the 60 to 70 range, and just out of a full season's complement, it just doesn't move things that much. Starting pitchers, position players, they'll move the needle a bit more. And I can give you an example. Pete Alonso, when he signed with the Mets recently, we added him to the depth charts. And another thing for him is he's something of an Iron Man, right? He played 161, I think, games last year, maybe all 162. So he's going to get a lot of plate appearances. We project him as about a 3-win player in terms of wins above replacement. He moved them 2 wins and moved them 1 win back of Atlanta in the NL East. So that's someone who moved the projections 2 full wins just on his own. We didn't have any other depth charts changes for the Mets that day. Whereas, again, for the Angels, someone like Kenley Jansen, even though he's pretty good and it's meaningful in the closer role. And this is, again, where I say like things like the bullpen and how the manager uses them and kind of the knock-on effects. Maybe you get Ben Joyce into a fireman role where he can come in the middle of innings and shut something down. Maybe that's more meaningful on the field than it necessarily would be in a projection where, again, it's only 60 innings and we don't know the leverage of those innings ahead of time.
Okay, makes sense. So I have two for you. One, do you guys build in an injury thing for players? Because you mentioned the Royals and their injuries or certain starting rotations and their injuries. Do you guys build that into your projections?
Yeah, so the projections are done on a rate basis. So it's always just a per inning, per plate appearance basis. And then we apportion those plate appearances or those innings or your games started. We have people who do those, right? So I can go in and edit a depth chart and say, I think this guy is going to play this percentage of time at these positions. And then we have rate stats, defensive stats for specific positions, and then rate stats offensively that will carry out over those playing time projections. So in a way we do, right? So if we don't project Byron Buxton for 600 plate appearances because he doesn't get 600 plate appearances in a season. He hasn't done that in a long time. We do project 600 plate appearances for Pete Alonso, for example, because he plays. He goes out there and plays. He posts up every day. So we do account for that, but it's manual. It's not done by the projection system itself.
Got it. Okay, so then let's dig into a specific player since you're talking about this.
Yeah.
Alex Bregman. How much could he swing if let's say he signs with the Astros or he signs with the Cubs? Because you have Texas winning the AL West right now. Is he enough to project possibly 3 wins to put the Astros in a better position to win their division if he re-signs there, or the Cubs to put more space between them and Milwaukee?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm going to while we're talking, I'm going to pull up our projection for him because he's a free agent, but because he's such a prominent free agent, we do an individual projection for him. Like we essentially give him playing time, and he does play quite a bit. My guess is it's going to be around the 3-win total, that 3 to 4 wins, maybe a little bit above what Pete Alonso was getting. And that will move projection. Again, I would say it depends on the team and it depends on their division. I would guess it would put Houston somewhere in the range of Texas. So right now they're 2 wins apart. It might actually move them ahead of Texas in our projection if that's the case. And for the Cubs, it's probably a little less meaningful just because they have so much depth in the first place. We have Matt Shaw projected for them at third base right now. It seems like that's the plan if they don't end up signing Bregman. He's projected for around a league average batting line. We think his glove will translate pretty well to third base. So even though Bregman is an extremely good player, obviously they have a pretty high baseline from which they're upgrading. And Houston, I think it's just a different story. Obviously, Isaac Paredes is a valuable player and a good contributor. But if you end up bringing Bregman in, moving Altuve to left, I don't know how that works defensively, but who they have projected in the outfield and left, Altuve plus Bregman is a much better situation than Altuve, Paredes, and whoever is projected in left right now.
All right, who's the most valuable player in your projections besides Shohei? Because obviously nobody's going to give you more value than Shohei.
Judge and Soto. I mean, just straight off the top. I mean, this shouldn't surprise anybody, but I know heading into last year, it was a big deal, obviously, with the Yankees picking up Soto. They were the 2 best projected hitters ahead of Shohei Ohtani. Just in terms of pure hitting, we have a metric called DRC plus, deserves runs created. They were by far the top 2 hitters in the league. And so, yeah, Shohei, obviously, with the pitching projection on top of the hitting projection, he gets a little bit of boost in that sense. So heading into this year, he has got the most wins above replacement. But Judge and Soto, look, hitting still, understanding that there are some defensive issues there for both of them potentially. Judge is fine in a corner, but stretched in center. Hitting just means the most. And so those 2 guys absolutely dominate.
Should teams build their teams in the offseason through this types of projection? I mean, I'm not saying that they're using PECOTA, but they're using the Yankees are using their system, which has a name, and the Red Sox are using their system. Should they be building teams like this? Is it the most efficient way to win a World Series or to save the most money?
That's a great question. I think it's a valuable tool, right? Like I said, I don't think you have to take a projection system as gospel. It's not canon. Everything it says, doesn't come true. We know we're going to get some of this stuff wrong. What I think is valuable about it is it offers a perspective that isn't necessarily as prone to recency bias as people tend to be. And people are able to understand things, like I said, about swing changes, adding a pitch, things like that. We're going to understand that better than the model is going to. And so it's about finding where those things meet and having the most confidence in those situations. And it's just another perspective that I think front offices used to lean on. And I'm certainly receptive to the idea that they lean on them a little bit too much. I think there can be a lot of homogeneity, honestly, in terms of how they assess the free agent markets. I was listening to Scott talk about how a lot of teams aren't active in the offseason, or a lot of guys tend to get the same kinds of offers and things like that. I think it absolutely can be used as a way to be cheap, as an excuse not to spend any. I would argue ownership and front offices will look for any tool to potentially do that if that's what they're interested in doing. But you can look at a team like the Dodgers, who spend more than anyone right now. They're one of the most analytical friendly front offices you're going to find. And they're not always looking for the most efficient deal possible. They're looking for what someone's going to add to their team, right? I could sit here and tell you, I don't know that I think that Tanner Scott deal is going to age as well as, some others, but he adds something to the team right now, and they're trying to win right now. So maybe that fourth year won't work out for them. I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe their projection system does tell them it will. But I would say, 4 years on a reliever already in his 30s is generally something a model isn't going to love. But that doesn't matter to them. And so they are going to take into account what the model has to say. And maybe they care that it says he's going to be really good in those first 2 years. And that's worth it for them to pay the back end. And that was how a lot of teams operated for a number of years. And now, there's been a trend towards trying to get surplus value out of a lot of these deals, rather than just improving the team and taking the value where it is.
Okay, can we show the NL East standings for me before we let you go here, Craig?
See, I thought you were going to come at me about Boston, and I was all set to agree with you.
On Boston? I didn't even Boston being last place? Nah, I can see that. I can see where things go wrong for them. I can see that.
I think they're going to be a little bit better.
Okay, yeah, I could see that too. I could see them being better. But here's my question about this one. Miami, fine. There's no way they don't lose 100. So that one you guys whiffed on. But Kratz has been repeatedly
it's 99.9, AJ. Come on.
That's not 100. You think they're going to lose? You don't think they're going to lose 100 games? So that's amazing.
We're going to round it up. But
that's not here nor there. That's here nor there. The big thing I have here is Kratz has been repeatedly destroyed for being a Phillies homer and being a Mets hater. And he said the Mets are guaranteed going to finish in third place in this division. You have them ahead of his Phillies. He wants to know why, because he just thinks the Phillies are so much better than everybody in baseball.
So I think that is something that comes down to depth again, right? If you look at the top line guys in the org, they're going to compete with anybody. And we actually just ran their preview today on the site. And so if you're a subscriber to the site, you can go in and see. We block out by depth charts like how good someone is per their amount of playing time and all of that. And if you look at their infield, they've got one of the best infields in baseball all the way around the diamond, right? Everyone projects really well. Max Kepler, that's a fine addition, but you're still running out Brandon Marsh a lot of the time in center field. And if you're not running him out there, you're running Johan Rojas, who hasn't proved that he can hit at all. Obviously, the rotation is quite good. But if you look, if there are any injuries, and look, they've been remarkably healthy, Ranger Suarez aside from last year with his back a little bit, they've been remarkably healthy. But again, if you're going to factor in any depth guys having to come in and pitch, once you get past Andrew Painter, it starts getting pretty questionable. That doesn't mean they can't pivot and backfill those. I absolutely believe in Dave Dombrowski's ability to do that and to build a winner. But that's where some of the questions come in. And we saw that last year as well with, Edmundo Sosa got pushed into a lot of playing time. Is Bryson Stott going to perform as people think he's got the potential to? He's been an adequate player, but is there another gear there? We saw there was another gear for Alec Boehm, but then he kind of downshifted in the second half of the season. And I think those are the question marks that kind of come up. Again, Nick Castellanos shows up in the playoffs a fair amount, but is not quite as locked in during most of the regular season. And again, just projects to be above, or around average there. So there's a lot of name value in the team. There are a lot of high producers in the team, but if any of them falter at all, or any of them pick up an injury, I think that's where the depth charts are coming into play, and the backups are going to be pressed a little bit more than some of these other teams.
What if Bailey falters? What if Bailey falters?
That's Pittsburgh. We're not talking about. That's Pittsburgh. We're not doing that.
That's right. Yeah, we're not. We did plenty of Pittsburgh yesterday. But Craig, this was awesome, man. Thanks for coming on here. Appreciate the time. Would love to have you back, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Would love to be back. Thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Check out Baseball Prospectus and at CD Goldstein on Twitter to get more from Craig and company. Little signing, the other major league signing today, Scott Barlow to the Cincinnati Reds. I like the way they're stacking pitching depth. You need it in Cincinnati. 63 appearances last year for Cleveland. Jesse Rogers broke the story. 1 year, $2.5 million. Barlow last season had a 4.25 ERA. ERA plus was just under league average at 96. He's been eating innings for a good chunk of his career, 55. Out of the bullpen, I should say. He's been durable out of the bullpen for, several years. And if you type in Scott Barlow StatCast, you can see why he gets several $1 million for technically giving you a bit below league average production. There is still some serious promise when it comes to weak contact, high whiff percentage, good strikeout numbers, those kind of metrics that teams are looking for. 68 Ks in 55 innings, low hard hit, high ground ball, high extension. It's all the sexy stuff for the front offices. It is. So good for Cincinnati to add an arm. Too many walks? That's the problem?
Too many walks.
And you're thinking...
to be that elite. To be elite.
Yeah, he's 32. Can he figure that out?
He's got a great arm. My question is we didn't even get to this with Craig because we had to go, but he's got Cincinnati at 74 wins, 73.9 wins. That's it, 73.9. We're all hyping them up, man. Are we all way off, or are they right? Does Scott Barlow move the needle to 75? I don't know. But
how many of those guys stay on the field? You talked about the things that give you, like, how many guys played 160 games last year, 150 games? So that's probably where the projections are buying low, and I'm getting seasick looking at AJ's camera.
Whoa.
Keep getting to move my camera. It's like Scott's.
What, when I was on a boat?
No, and your camera was like, ooh.
My camera's been behaving lately. It's so good that we might get you one for the road. But anyway, I like Cincinnati.
Money. That would cost money, and we're like the Marlins.
I would say we're more like the Mariners. We've at least, spent on our core, but as far as new acquisitions, it can be difficult sometimes.
It can be difficult.
Leo Rodriguez got paid. JP Crawford got paid. We're going year to year with our pitching staff. So I would say more like the Mariners, which is not frustrating at all. But anyway, I'm with you, AJ. I think the Reds should be good. I think the Reds will be good. I think they'll be contenders here. I really do. I'm with you. So don't sleep on them. Here we go. Craig Mish joining us, always making us look bad with the background there. Craig, great to have you on. You can follow Craig at Craig Mish. If you're listening later, it's MISH. You can hear him on Sports Grid, also part of Herald Sports. Craig, great to have you on.
Craig,
and
where is that? Is that Lauderdale? That's not Miami. You're not. That's clearly not Miami downtown.
Right. Yeah,
It's
good call.
Bal
Good
Harbor?
call. Yeah, good call. So I live in Hollywood, which is in between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. I did spend a lot of time in Miami, more or less grew up there. But yeah, now I'm like in between there. So I think that is like the Aventura area, actually.
Yeah, he's living that Hollywood lifestyle near the casino.
Him and Mike Napoli. Him and Mike Napoli are living that Hollywood life.
Near the horses, right? In Hallandale, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right. All right, so Craig, we're going to have some fun here. We're going to try to obviously spin a little bit of positivity into what it's about to begin here for the Marlins. Let's hit the storylines, fancy little front end. All right, 10 minutes, 4 topics. Perpetual rebuild, they tore it down again. New manager, who dis? Clayton McCullough, coming from a very, very winning atmosphere. So that's a good sign. Can the Marlins turn themselves into the Rays? Huge, huge question mark, but also massive goal, right? That is why Peter Bendix is here. They said, can you do that here? It's very close, Tampa to Miami. And that includes a little Norby and Stowers conversation. And then pitching haven. Marlins, looking for some starting pitching. We had Lance Lynn on the show yesterday who said they haven't called. So it'd be cool if they called him or other veterans for a little depth for that starting rotation. Okay, so let's start with the overall outlook here. Sandy Alcantara is coming back. But since he's pitched, Craig, he's missing some friends. What happened?
Well, they started off the season, the worst start I can ever remember in the history of the Marlins franchise. And, Peter Bendix, the president of the Marlins at that time, who was hired, recognized that very early on in the season and decided at that point he didn't believe they would make the playoffs, traded Luis Arias. Everybody else got traded in July. And then everybody who was, sort of left over from a veteran's point of view was traded this offseason. So, as you said, Scott, the goal is to do things very differently. And as we've seen in the offseason, you could hear a pin drop. It's been very, very quiet. Quietest offseason I can ever remember. And I go back to 1993 because I've lived here for a long time. So, yeah, their goal is to draft, to develop internal structure, infrastructure, data, analytics, all of the things that some people love and some people hate that we love to debate about. That's the direction the Marlins are going. And so Sandy will start opening day. He'll start against Paul Skeens. I think it's the best pitching matchup in baseball that day. What happens after that, I don't know, Scott, but that'll be a great day.
I mean, they put in Clayton McCullough. He's done nothing but winning in LA. But is there a chance, is there a opportunity for a manager to help an offense that lost Jake Berger and was already in the bottom of the league in stats? Because normally a manager comes in, you're like, the way he used the bullpen when he was over at this team, it could really help. But can Clayton McCullough help the offense?
Well, Erik, look, I mean, their offense was dreadful last year. I mean, I honestly don't know how much worse it could possibly be. I mean, people forget that even with Jake Berger and with Jazz Chisholm and with Luis Arias for a couple of months and Jesus Sanchez and all of the names that they don't have anymore, they were still one of the worst offenses in baseball. And that even goes back to their playoff season, too. So, yes, he's got a very tall task ahead of him with this new hitting group that is there. A lot of data analytics and new ways to view things in terms of course, statistical analysis and WAR and expected WAR. I mean, this is just a new day. So, I mean, McCullough, from all indications, is very much online, Erik, with the way that the organization sees data and wants to implement it in the future from the major leagues to the minor league levels. They've basically wiped out all of their minor league coaches too. So this is going to be integrated from the bottom all the way to the top. And whether or not it works remains to be seen, but that's the attempt.
Speaking of the attempt, they're attempting to be the Rays. Peter Bendix came over and he wants to make them the Rays. You want to know what the Marlins have that the Rays don't have? 2 World Series, Craig. So why do they want to be the Rays? Why can't they just be the Marlins? Why does every smallish market, even though Miami's a big market, want to be the Rays? Why can't Peter Bendix come over from the Rays? And I know he's going to put his own spin on it. But again, it's Marlins. Every team wants to be let's be the Rays. Let's be the Rays. Let's be the Rays. The Marlins have won twice. The Marlins have never, or the Rays have never won any times. So how about we just continue to do what we were doing, building, because they had Skip Schumacher. They had a nice team. Why do they want to start completely over from scratch and become the Rays from the start?
Yeah, AJ, look, that's the question that I think a lot of fans in South Florida have. They look back and they see they won the World Series in 1997. They see they won it in 2003, made the postseason in the 2020 season. And then you remember a couple of years ago with Skip there at the helm, they made it too. But generally, AJ, all of those seasons in between were pretty horrible. And they would like to have it a little bit more consistent. Now, whether or not that leads to another World Series, I think remains to be seen. But it is going to be extremely tough for the Marlins to continue to go about the way that they have been doing it, even with those World Series seasons, and compete in that division with the talent that is around in that division and the money that's being spent there. So I think trying something different and seeing if it works is definitely the way that they're going to go. By the way, they tried this several years ago when they bought the team and Derek Jeter took over and traded everybody that they had, and Stanton and Yelich and Ozuna and all these players, got a lot of young players back in return. Really, outside of Sandy Alcantara and at the time Zach Allen, didn't really get anything back in return for those players. So here we go again. They're going to try it one more time, but doing it in a different way. Again, the way that the Rays have done it. Again, remains to be seen if it'll work or not, but that's the attempt.
Two best ways to improve the young pitching that you have in a Meyer, in a, even in a Yuri Perez type of way, is to keep them healthy, but also to not overexpose them and put them around veterans. So do they have a good recruiting chip in the sense that they can tell a veteran, hey, come here, recoup your value, gain value in this huge pitcher's park? Or is it something that they're just going to say, all right, young guys, go ahead, play your game?
As far as pitchers are concerned, I think they still could potentially be in the market for one. It still remains to be seen if they're going to pull the trigger there. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe a 50-50 shot. But I know that they really like the first three pitchers in that rotation with Sandy, Ryan Weathers, and as you see there, in Edward Cabrera too. Beyond that, as you said, Erik, it's very much a mystery. So from behind the plate, as you guys know, yes, I do think that they could use, as we would say, a one-year mercenary, innings eater, someone along those lines. They still have time, spring training, even though pitchers and catchers are reporting. This is not unusual for baseball at this time where guys do sign late February and even into March. So I'm sure as the spring goes on, they'll sort of determine which direction they end up going from there. But they're very content with the first three that they have. And let's also not forget at some point this season, and by the way, I know he said July, but I could see Yuri Perez coming back sooner than that. And he's a superstar in the making. So maybe June for him as well. But yeah, I mean, that's not a lot of innings from the previous season going into this season. And so they're going to have to figure out one way or the other. They were starting anybody and everybody last year at the end.
All right, Craig, last thing before we let you go. I don't know if you can see your background when we go to a one shot of you. Do you see the background of yourself? I don't know if can we kick his one shot around your little square? Can you see that, what it is?
No. What am I missing?
No, it's the statue. Can we bring back the statue?
Oh, the statue.
Please, in left field. I know it's outside, but can we bring back the? I know, but it's not in the ballpark. It was like the most Miami thing ever. If you go to Miami, you expect Art Deco. They had the green walls, the aquarium. It was cool. Now they have the dark blue walls, no statue, and they have, I don't know what they have exactly. They have a roof that works.
The roof works. It's a beautiful stadium, but yeah, AJ, I don't think that's coming back. They spent millions of dollars to move that thing out, by the way. Millions of dollars.
Right? They could have bought her like a quality starting pitcher for that.
They could have got Barlow, I think, for that,
Yeah,
exactly. That's right. That's right.
But look, I mean, some people loved it, some people hated it, and a lot has happened in between then and now. But I don't see them moving it a second time. By the way, every day at 3:05 p.m. the thing goes off. I don't know if you know that. 3:05 Dade County.
I did know that.
Yeah, every day.
Wow.
Makes sense. 3:05. That's the area code for anyone wondering. I do know well, and I do think it was super petty. Okay, because I know Derek wanted to, kind of had his little battle with David Sampson and took it out, but not worth the money. That money could have gone elsewhere, and it certainly did not affect wins and losses on the field. No. I am with AJ. I liked it. Derek's tenure was a failure. So anyway, Craig, great to have you on. Appreciate the time. Everyone go give Craig a follow. He is the guy dialed in on the Marlins at Craig, Mish. Good to see you, Craig.
Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate you. FT fam, we'll be right back to go over Alex Bregman rumors and the Cubs interested in someone else in that spot. All right, here we go. This is actually a good point in our chat from Mark behind the scenes here. Miami metro area, second largest in the Southeast, ninth largest in the U.S. Miami metro area, largest economy, urban economy in Florida. Not a small market, just small-minded. It actually makes Miami feel small with the way that the Marlins operate. I think they're bad PR for the city because you look at them, if you live somewhere else and you're like, oh, Miami must be like this tiny little nothing with not much of a booming economy. I mean, they can't even afford to sign a player for the entire offseason, and they have to rebuild after 1 year of the playoffs. Poverty franchise. Man, if only there was more action in that area to be able to support the team. Oh, wait, there's so much money in that area. They just can't figure out the game plan. The game plan is obviously they need someone else to run it, but you can't control that in sports. So poor Marlins fans have to keep suffering. I watched many Marlins games during my time living in Miami. Anyway, quick quote from Kodai Senga while we have a minute. He did not talk to Roki Sasaki during his recruitment process. Already was decided where he was going. He said he thinks the weather in LA is a big factor for Japanese players and a reason why the Mets haven't added another top Japanese free agent. This is a great quote. We need to build a roof. He's right, guys. Especially if you're Roki, AJ. Roki was going to sign for about the same money anywhere. He already wanted to join his friends in LA, and then he does a little weather check with LA versus New York. And he's like, wait, I'm going to have to pitch in rainouts and get all screwed up and rain delays? No thanks.
This is the most, as my kids would say, boomer thing I've ever heard, okay? Because are you kidding me? Tanaka had no problem signing in New York and did great. Matsuzaka went to Boston. He did fine. Nomo, when he got to Boston, he did fine. I just think this is a cop-out. This is terrible take by Kodai Senga. You play in Citi Field, which is new. They're not putting a roof on it anytime soon because Steve Cohen doesn't have another $1 billion to spend, I don't think, after he spent almost $1 billion on Juan Soto and all the players he's brought in. But this is just a bad take. Like, you play in the field you play in, and you deal with it. That's it. I mean, yeah, of course, every team would like to play in a dome, but you know what? You don't, because baseball is meant to play outside. And in New York, they want their summers, and they want to enjoy their summers. So you got to put up with a bad month here and there. I don't think this has affected anything. I just think this is a bad take. And by the way, Kodai, if you really wanted Sasaki, you know what you do? You call him up.
In the weeds, believe it or not, the Cubs have discussed other options if Alex Bregman signs elsewhere. Justin Turner's name popped up. Apparently, there's some interest from Boston and Detroit in Turner, too. This one came out last night from Kenny Ballgame, Rosenthal, and Patrick Mooney, part of Northside territory, both part of The Athletic. Kenny Ballgame, of course, Rosenthal on fair territory. Other notes from this one. Justin Turner and fam are intrigued about the Chicago Summers, and he's been in a lot of fun big markets. This would kind of complete the tour. New York, LA, Boston, Toronto, Seattle. Seemed like the Mariners might have happened. They certainly talked that way towards the end of last season, but the Mariners are broke. They instead got Donovan Solano. The Reds were in contact with Turner. The Cubs, of course, have Matt Shaw, and Craig Counsell did say yesterday Shaw gets the first shot. At least that's what he said for now. And there are other options in camp, like John Birdie, who we spoke to on the show the other day. All right, take all of that and tell me what you got. Kratz, who are the Cubs going to bring in? And also, of course, Turner's not playing third really much anymore, if at all.
I don't see the Turner thing other than the fact that the dude has always been kind of in the limelight. He's played the big markets. Now, the White Sox would be a bigger market than the Cubs, but that's not where he's going to sign. I don't see the Cubs getting either of these guys. And this isn't me Cub hating. This is me Matt Shaw loving. We heard Craig talk about it when they were doing their PECOTA projections. I watched this guy play for Team USA, not when I was with him, just recently in this last tournament they played in. He's got a really, really nice swing. I think this is something that they don't see the extra added value for delaying what he can do. Bring him up, show what he can do, and I think that's the route that the Cubs go. And maybe this is where the value for Craig Counsell is. They saw all the young guys, all the minor league guys get called up to the Brewers and have success. Maybe the Cubs are like, hey, we have a really good prospect here. This is why we're paying Craig $8 million a year. Get the value out of this kid.
You know what I loved about that whole thing? He's got a really nice swing. What?
I mean, how can I?
I mean,
how can I go into
a lot
it
of
more?
nice swings. A lot of people have nice swings. That doesn't mean they can hit. I mean, I played with a lot of guys that have nice swings. I played Hunter Pence had the worst swing of all time, and he got a lot of hits in the big league. So I don't know. I just thought that was funny. Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I think Shaw is the answer for the Cubs to start the season. Craig Counsell came out and basically said that yesterday. So I don't know. Unless they get Bregman, which I'm not sure that's going to happen at this point. But Justin Turner's a nice fit. He's a good clubhouse guy. He still can swing it in certain situations when you need him to. I think he fits on a lot of teams. But the real question to me is, why hasn't he signed yet? Why has the team not offered him, especially a team looking to win? Because, again, he'll come off the bench, play multiple positions. He can hit. He can teach some of your younger guys how to hit. And I think he'd be okay at this point of coming off the bench and showing guys how it's done.
Clubhouse guy. A clubhouse guy. That's what the Cubs need. Who wants a clubhouse guy? He's 40 years old. He's old. Like, there is definitely value for Turner on this team. Not as a starting third baseman. I just feel
I didn't say that. I said as a clubhouse guy and coming off the bench.
I mean, yeah, but
you're too busy laughing. He's a good fellow. He won the Roberto Clemente Award. I saw him in
so he's definitely a good fellow.
That's right. That definitely makes you a good fellow. It's like winning the Walter Payton Award. Just automatically makes you a nice guy.
Just year in and year out. It's not. You don't ever slump in the good guy awards.
Nope. Not if you win one of those.
Hey, let's show the tie-on quote. Last thing here, because you got to tiptoe. Jed Hoyer didn't really do much with it a couple days ago when the media was asking him about Bregman. You know, he kind of brushed it off for the most part. I don't think there was much to it. But Tyon took a long pause. Well, here's Jesse Rogers with the tweet. While looking into the cameras after being asked about teammates like Tucker and Presley recruiting Bregman. Quote, those guys speak very highly of him, and I've definitely heard them communicate that out loud. Yeah, I mean, they'd love to see him run through that door, but I'm still confused about the offer situation. Like, do the Cubs have a 6-year offer, or are we just getting wrong reports, right? Like, we got the report the other day that he wants 6 or 7 years. So if he wants 6 or 7 years, it sounds like he's got that from the Astros for a while now. And I think Toronto is what people keep guessing. So pick one. We think the Cubs or the Red Sox, or I guess the Tigers, I don't know where they're at, are going to suddenly up their offer once they see people in camp and go, I feel like we're one bat short. I don't feel like teams do that anymore. I do think they do that if someone gets hurt. But relying on a pitcher to get hurt versus a position player is a much different game. Not a ton of position players get hurt with long-term injuries. Your percentage chance in spring training is much lower. Arms drop like crazy. Position players,
Are Presley and Tucker telling Bregman, hey, you got to come here? I know we're both only going to be here for 1 year, but dude, you got to come here for 5 years. Let's say the Cubs offer is 5 years. He wants 6, he doesn't get it, or it's 6 years, he wants 7, doesn't get it. Bregman's going to be there and be like, wait, you guys aren't here anymore. Like, as much as they might be boys, I don't know what their relationship is. I don't know that should move the needle for Bregman.
No, it's contract, it's money. He did
Here's my thing about Bregman
already the first time around.
Here's my thing about Bregman. I've said this. If he has this magical 6-year deal out there, why isn't he taking it? Apparently no team's going to go to 7. No team's going to move at this point. If he's been sitting on this 6-156 that we've heard about for, I don't know, months and weeks and whatever.
October.
Nobody obviously has taken it to the next level. So why has he not taken it? That's my question. If it's really on the table at this point, nobody's going to beat that, right? I mean, unless Scott Boras pulls something out of his hat, a rabbit out of his hat. So that seems to be the team you got to go to. If that's there, Alex, I love you. You're a great guy. You're a good fella. You've had a great career in Houston. But whoever has the 6'156", I don't understand why he hasn't taken it yet.
It sounds like that even got pushed up a little bit closer to the 160 range. So again, I'm like, where are we at? So we'll see. We'll see. That sounds like an attractive offer, especially if he wants to stay there. You got to bump up a little bit of money for the state income tax too, because you're in Texas. So that helps. So if there's an offer that's better than it and it's coming from, say, Toronto, it's got to be X% better, right? 10%, something like that, to be fair.
To AJ's point there, let's say he can get the exact same, whatever the tax difference, 14% from Toronto to Texas. If he can get that 14% offer from Toronto on paper, like, hey, this is what we're going to give you, whatever 14% of 160 million is, let's see, 7, 16, another 20 million. I think he would want to take that back to the Astros and say, give me half of the extra of what they're giving. Give me the extra 10 million, put it on, and I'll sign it today.
I think the Astros are going to go, we're making the same offer. If you get to the finish line of what this money is, it's the same offer. They do that. So it's a good little battle going on right now.
They'll say, no.
Exactly. I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to be like, yo, we've got the same offer. We're not going to outbid ourselves. So we'll see what happens. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk to, or we're going to hear from Andrew Friedman. He was on Dodgers territory yesterday. Then after that, we're going to talk to Torey Lovullo, manager for the Diamondbacks on FT. All right, a couple right now. This one's for AJ. Jesse Rogers is at all the camps, and he spoke to Chris Getz today, or at least got a quote. Quote, I think we'll win more games this year. What do you think about the Nostradamus call out?
I mean, I hope so, because if you don't win more games, you're setting another record. I mean, you can't possibly. I mean, it was Garrett Crochet's fault. We all learned that from Chuck Garfien. You know, he ruined the bullpen. So let's not forget that, okay, before we dig into this. But they better win more games. If they win, think about this. If they only lose 110 games this year, that's an 11-game improvement. Most teams that prove 11 games are like, man, they had a great offseason. Look at them. They're really on the rise. Now, imagine if they win 20 more games. They only lose 101 games. Think how much of an improvement that is. Will Venable, manager of the year.
Why? Why are they going to win more games? What? Besides, like,
they can't have his
blank out last year. Blank out all of history. That has nothing to do. Andrew Benintendi's not like, we are not going to do this. I know history and I know baseball. We are not going to. What on this roster is going to convince me? Mike Tauchman, the sock man? He's not throwing any late innings. Like, because the bullpen improved at the end of the year last year, they have less starting pitching. Why are they going to win more games? Just because nobody's done it before? Nobody's lost more than that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They can't, as Chuck Garfien said, they're incredibly unlucky. And I always believe everything Chuck says because he's on TV. But yes, that's why. Because they can't be as bad and as unlucky. Travis Janikowski's not going to jump over the left field wall, rob Andrew Vaughn of a potentially game-winning homer in the 9th inning, okay? It's not. There's just so many things. They can't go, they think they finally won a game like in September, trailing after 7 innings, right? There's just, there's so many things that were impossible to happen to the White Sox. They have to get, even if they just get a smidge better, Kratz, just a smidge. If they win 2 games after the 7th inning, they'll win more games than they did last year.
Yeah, but they don't have Fetty to win games. They don't have Crochet to win games anymore.
Crochet's fault that they lost all those games. Didn't you listen to Chuck?
Chuck is wrong. Chuck was wrong.
I just hope that did the Dr. Evil. We will win more games this year. More games. Wow.
5 games?
So you're going to have 117
That's a 4-win improvement. That's a 4-win improvement.
Oof.
PECOTA only has them losing 99.
Well, remember that one fan? He's sick of the White Sox being small market, not being able to keep up with the rest of the division.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Hey, shout out to Dodgers territory getting Andrew Friedman on the show. He was quite busy this offseason. You know, he talked about signing Kike back and how that was kind of going to be the only option. We can get into Farhan Zaidi on the other side of this. He also got into the Shohei Ohtani rules, kind of learned on the fly there what was changing. So let's dive into this little soundbite from Andrew.
The two-way designation is incredibly helpful. With the 13 pitcher limit, the two-way designation allows us to not count Shohei as a pitcher, which in turn allows us to have flexibility with our starting rotation and still maintain an 8-man bullpen. And that was part of our pitch to Roki, and something that we believed very strongly was no team was better equipped to bring him along in the major leagues than we were because of Shohei. And we have given starters extra rest in the past, and we've been pretty aggressive doing it. It's hard. And there's a friction that comes with it, especially now with the 5 option limit in each season. There's friction that comes with it. You're sending guys down, you're clicking along those 5 options, you're disrupting things a lot. We had determined in the past that what we felt like was some advantage, or at least most cautious approach for player health, was that. And so therefore it was worth it, but it wasn't costless. And, it just required us to communicate our way through it a lot. But it can be a little clumsy. But with Shohei, you can have an 8-man pen and so not put your relievers at risk. And you can have flexibility on the starting front. And so that, for us, with Shohei coming back from injury, with Yamamoto in his second year, with Roki, with other guys, Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin coming off injury, it just gives us some flexibility to read and react to what's going on and how guys are recovering, which we can't know as we're sitting here on February 10th.
And just to backtrack for a moment before that, because I listened to the whole show this morning, Dodgers territory, go check it out. Online, pod, the whole deal. Okay, really good episode. There it is. Andrew was talking about the rule change. I don't know if he knew about it, or at least didn't get the word because it had just come out, how MLB made it a 2-year thing instead of a 1-year designation. So if you've done the two-way player action in the past 2 years, it counts. I found that part interesting, that it just suddenly changed along with Shohei. I don't really know what to think, but I'm like, do we need to change the rules that way? Like, well, I like the 1-year status. Make Ohtani have to put in the plate appearances in the innings, and after like a month, they can get the extra roster spot.
It's like MLB is catering rules to the Dodgers. Just saying. I mean, it doesn't affect anybody else. Stop with the Michael Lorenzen drop in here too. like stop. It's Shohei rule, and they extended it to 2 years. Man, the Dodgers, they just guess that's who MLB wants to win. So they're just giving them everything. My question is, he talked about the optioning guys down. Are they going to option Roki Sasaki down to the minor leagues? Are we going to see him use up one of his options this year?
No chance. He would have to pitch terribly. If they do that, he's getting out of the contract and he's going to re-enter the signing process. Can't get out. I'm kidding, but
who else is going to be optioned?
He's not getting optioned.
Who else is being optioned down?
I don't know. I don't really dig into their roster. I've never really dig into their roster very deep.
You're saying who's making the rotation?
I can tell you who's not. Pages might get optioned. Some of their bullpen guys can get optioned. Some of their younger guys.
He was talking about the option. I heard him talking about how to deal with having more starting pitchers, how the option, working 6-man rotation, the option, like 5. Like, you can't have 7 guys in your rotation and not expect, like, Yamamoto has options, Roki Sasaki has options. They're talking about that flexibility allows Roki to be on the roster but not wear out their bullpen. Like, are they going to use Are they going to use those options that are available? Because you can't option Blake Snell. You can't option Tyler Glass now. You can't option, Tony Gonsolin. Gonsolin doesn't have any, but he's coming off an injury. Like, there's a lot of guys that don't have options. Those two have options.
No
chance.
No chance.
No chance. Something would
No
have
chance.
to
You
go
don't think-
incredibly wrong.
No, I'm not saying they're going to pitch bad. I'm saying to be able to, it gives them flexibility to be able to, like a healthy option.
No,
chance.
because then you're messing with his service time, you jerk. You don't do that to my service time. Then
Not only that, but you're
doesn't
just
matter.
going to destroy his confidence. You're not going to tell him, hey, by the way, you've been throwing great, good or bad. Oh, we're going to send you to AAA just because we need another guy to pitch. He's going to be like, I'm going to pitch. There's no way.
No. I'm saying because they're going to manipulate their innings. Is that not what you heard Freeman say, talking about how you can't?
But
they
you
don't
can't
have
just
guys
option a guy. They're not just going to option him down and say, don't pitch. They're going to option him down and say, don't pitch.
They could do that, but then
Totally
he
can
has
do
to
it.
spend X amount of days down in the minor
They're not
leagues
they're
or
not
off
gonna
of the
do
big
that.
league roster.
and throw
They're not gonna
bullpens. Well, they wouldn't say, hey, you're going to miss this time in the rotation, and we'll just keep you on the roster and essentially be one man down, but we're just going to have you throw bullpens because you're missing this spot in the rotation because you only threw 101 innings last year and 111 innings the year before. Like, they're going to have to manipulate his innings. You can't put him on the fake IL. We already know people will lose their jobs for that and get suspended for that. So I'm reading between the lines. I've seen it done. You can play well and still be optioned and just go and throw bullpens and not be on the big league roster.
Number one, someone's going to get hurt. Number two, there are players with options. Not many, but Tony Gonsolin looks like he has one left. Bullpen's pretty stacked up right now. But I think they have that one extra space. I think they're okay.
They'll be fine.
It's not going to be a roster crunch situation. Let's call it that. I understand what you're saying on the other side of the spectrum is this is a competitive advantage. If we are giving this guy a longer break and we option him, we are legally able to do that within the rules because he has his options. He's operating like a first-year league minimum player. With that being said, what kind of example would that set for future Japanese players that want to sign with the Dodgers if they're under 25 years old?
They took care of his arm. They're not optioning like the way that you guys are talking about options. Oh, that's a demotion. You're being demoted. No, he's being. It's just a roster manipulation. It's not anything. Hey, we know they're going to him. They're going to Roki and saying, we know you can throw about 130 innings this year. How do we do that? Well, here's some of our options. We can put you on the IL. We can throw you 4 innings a time every 6 starts. We can do this. So they're telling him, and they're telling him how they want to keep him healthy. All things that Friedman said, they have to figure out how to keep these guys healthy too.
Yeah, see, I'll agree with some of what you're saying in terms of resting. I'm all for that. I just think there's one big delineation. It's called the Phantom IL. They're not going to have him, quote, lose service time and even just have the headline in Japan that Roki Sasaki is demoted to the minor leagues. I'm telling you, there is a pride factor there, and he is a player trying to get free agency. I don't know how the service time game would work, and if he goes down for a second, it's not going to be a huge deal, but you have the Phantom IL slot, which is unlimited. So if they want to give him a blow halfway through the season, they're just going to say, his ankle's sore and he needs a couple weeks, or he's got anal fissures. And then he just takes a couple weeks, the fissures go away, and he goes back to playing baseball. Right, AJ?
My head hurts. Let's go to something else. We're arguing over nothing at this point.
Okay. So next up, Farhan Zaidi, hired back by really Mark Walter, the owner of the Dodgers. It sounds like he'll be involved with the Dodgers, but also with other sports properties that the majority owner of the team is involved with. That includes the LA Sparks, WNBA, PWHL, which I admittedly did not look up. I don't know what that is. Chelsea FC, which is soccer, and Farhan Smart. I'm sure he'll help him with efficiency. We kind of got that hint when we had him on the show several weeks back, AJ, that he was going to get himself involved. And this actually sounds like a good fit for him to work on the processes and bring some of what he built with Friedman in LA to other teams, as long as they don't go too crazy with the platoons in the WNBA or in soccer. I don't think you can really platoon.
He didn't really remember. He was like, I don't really want to discuss it, but you could kind of tell by the way he was saying like something was in the works. And good for Farhan. He landed on his feet. I'm sure he got paid nicely. And he gets to work not only in baseball, but in other sports. So maybe one day we'll look up and he's the GM of, Chelsea, which, listen, I know the owner of a soccer team. I'm always arguing to be their Ted Lasso, but they won't hire me. I don't know why.
That would be an epic reality show. I love it.
You are not Ted Lasso.
No.
What do you mean I'm not? How do you know I'm not Ted Lasso?
No.
Are you kidding me? Those guys would play hard.
Teddy.
They would play hard.
He knows his soccer. By the way,
how hard is it to coach soccer? You go here, you go kick
for
the ball to him, and then you
PWHL.
score a goal. It's easy. Soccer's easy, right? So
Yeah.
they say. If you watch Ted Lasso, soccer's easy. Just go play football.
Ball in goal. Wait, this one was big for me because Andrew Friedman's been around the game for a while. He's been with the Dodgers for a long time at this point, and he was with the Rays for a very long time. Fabian Ardaya, who covers the Dodgers for The Athletic, was watching Dodgers Territory yesterday live during this conversation, and he tweeted out, Andrew Friedman says Kike Hernandez signing isn't official, but it was Kike or nothing when it came to further position player additions. Noted his October leadership, the best I've ever seen. That's high praise.
That's high praise.
There's only one best ever seen.
How's that guy not get a job then? If that's out there, no way Andrew Friedman hasn't said this other time. No way nobody hasn't heard that. And yet Kike can't find a job. Kike's just like, no, these other teams. I don't want to go and play for you. I just want to play for the Dodgers. He said it on the show. It's not valued.
No, the leadership, AJ, that's not valued. It's not. I'm being serious. I mean, it's valued like to a touch, but not enough to outbid them, you know?
I mean, Kike pretty much said it on when he came on our show. He wanted to play for the Dodgers. I mean, he didn't pretty much say. He did say last year. Remember when he's like, I got three offers or whatever it was, and they were all the same, and one of them was a Dodger, so I chose the Dodgers. I mean, he pretty much said that he wanted to play for the Dodgers. Good for him, man. He's a veteran guy. He's won with the Dodgers. They freaking love him. He gets the hips going, right? The whole thing, the Shakira hips going, right? Like, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for Kike. He should be a Dodger. He thrives in Dodger blue, so bring him back.
Yeah, and last word here. So Friedman said if you had told me that he was going to turn into this type of leader 10 years ago when he was in a banana suit, he's like, I would have bet hard against that. So good for him. I mean, he went from like hilarious jokester to I can still do that, but also bring an entire clubhouse together. So we love Kike. Good job there by the Dodgers to bring him back. Next up, the team that's going to be taking shots all year, the Diamondbacks, Torey Lovullo leading that team, taking shots at the Dodgers, I'm saying. I mean, maybe a tequila shot if they celebrate a victory. I don't know. AJ, if you think that the option versus Phantom IL conversation was dumb, just wait until you see this one. Nick Madrigal, who signed with the Mets, showed up to camp with a Cubs duffel bag because he was on the Cubs in the past. And people in the comments were quite displeased about the duffel bag. Brent Rooker, superstar on Twitter and on the baseball field with the A's, said, the number of people in the replies mad about his bag is so incredibly funny. Y'all think he just has a Mets duffel bag laying around his house to bring to camp? In 2023, I walked into A spring training with a Royals duffel bag and a Padres bat bag.
Agreed. I mean, Kratz, you switch teams a lot. I switch teams a bunch too. You know what you don't have? A duffel bag of the team you're going to play for next. You get that in spring training when you get there. So if you took a picture of every guy walking in that switch teams, guess what? They're going to have the bag of their old team. You know what that team does? They send it back to the team he was just on. They send it right back. Now, listen, I got this picture, and Kratz can't relate to this, But when I was in Chicago for 8 years and then I went to Texas, well, spring training is in Arizona. I had a full pod of stuff that they brought to Arizona just to get rid of out of Chicago, and they dumped it right here. They dumped it in the Rangers spring training parking lot, and we're like, you guys deal with it now. So that was what they dumped, and that was what the Rangers like, well, what are we going to do with it? I'm like, I don't know, but we got to figure it out, people. So they shipped it all to my house.
So bougie.
That was just your stuff?
That was just my stuff. But did you see the White Sox bag? There was a White Sox bag there. Oh no, he showed up to spring training on the bottom right. That's a White Sox bag. And there's all shoes, catching gear, all kinds of stuff. I don't know. It looks like there was like a human head in there too. I don't know what they were doing with that one. But,
yeah, I was going to say, did they give you a mannequin? What people need to look at closely is those Nike boxes have the white label on them, and the white label signifies that AJ got all these custom shoes that he never used. He's so bougie that all this stuff was just packed away in Chicago, or maybe even on the truck. So they had to waste space for all of his stuff. I'm glad they dumped it there. I hope you didn't touch a single stitch of it and got all new blue stuff. And some minor leaguers are wearing some AJ Pierzynski cleats.
I gave all that stuff away. I gave almost all that stuff away. And I would only go through a couple pair of shoes a year, and they would send me so many. I was like, because I didn't go through a lot of shoes or catching gear. They would just send me so many. Halfway through, they send you a new one. It was crazy.
Hey, we've got Torey Lovullo, the manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, joining us on FT. We've been working on this for a minute. How you doing, Torey? We wanted to wait until you got Corbin Burns and you were all loaded up for the season. What's up?
Right. I know. I apologize. Last year, I totally game-faced you guys and said no. It just didn't. It didn't work, and it might be the first time I've ever said I will do it later. So I appreciate you guys hanging with me.
Hey, we're on every day.
I know why
it works.
Hey, I know why you did it, Torey. It's okay. I get it. I understand. It's cool. I get it. It's my fault. It's my fault. I understand. You know, that's cool. I get it. It's cool. We won't dig into why, but it's cool. It's cool.
I was going to agree with you on the shoe situation. I don't remember you changing shoes that often. And the fact that you got like 25 boxes delivered to you, I'm thinking, did you ask for those or did they just send them to you? Because I felt like you wore one set of gear for the entire year. That's how I remember you. So where's all that stuff?
I would switch it at the All-Star break. I would wear it unless something it broke or got cracked. I'd wear one set the first half, one set the second half. That was it. Shoes maybe once a month, maybe depending on if it was going bad. I just changed everything. Plus sometimes my shoes started stinking when it was hot, so I had to change them a little bit more often. But I had home and road. So it made it a little different too.
Yeah, you wore the plastics. You didn't wear spikes, if I can remember correctly, right?
That's right. I always wear plastics. My feet are sensitive. Sensitivo, Torey. Sensitivo.
Catchers, you guys are little divas, right? I mean, Erik said it a little bit. He said that you're a little bougie. I know, Erik, you were a catcher too. I'm kind of throwing you in this mix here, but you were a little bit of a grinder, man. You absolutely did it right. AJ was a total white-collar catcher. You know what I mean? Total white-collar.
Yes. Total white collar, total clubhouse. Like didn't want to show up to spring training. We've already hit all this stuff. But did AJ got all those shoes in Boston camp in spring training when you were there? You weren't Hefe. You were kind of low man on the coaching totem pole. Did he help you out? Did he give you anything, or are you exactly? And so that's why AJ got fired. AJ's time in Boston was not good. I get it. We might not hit on it. But it's because AJ just didn't share the goodness. He didn't share the goodness.
Wait, I don't remember what happened. Did you get traded or did you get fired?
Oh, I got fired. I got poop canned. That's fine. It was. You know really what? Fired. I'll be honest with you. I'll be happy with you, Torey. And I was just giving you crap at the beginning because I actually do like you a lot, and we've talked. But I'll say this: no, I got S canned. I can't say the word on national TV, but actually, when it happened, Manager John called me and was like, "Hey, we need you to come in at like 9 a.m." And I was like, "Am I getting DFA to release?" He's like, "We can't talk about it on the phone. Just be here in half an hour." And I was like, "Okay." And my wife looked at me and goes, "That was a weird call." I go, "Yeah, I'm getting released. So start packing." And she's like, why aren't you upset? And I'm like, because we suck. And now I got a chance to go to a good team. And I ended up in St. Louis. So I was like, most people would be like, oh, I got fired. I got released. I was like, you know what? I actually looked at Ben Cherington. I still see him when I go to Pirates stuff. And I'm like, thank you, Ben. I really do appreciate that. I really do appreciate you guys moving me on. And I got to go to a better place. And actually, it got me 2 more years in the big leagues, because if I wouldn't have gone to St. Louis, I wouldn't have played 2 more years. So actually, thank you guys. I say that all the time. I love my time in Boston. I love the organization, and I love the guys I got to play with. And I got to experience the bad side of Boston, which not a lot of people get to say.
Like, I had a lot to do with that decision too, AJ, right? You're throwing.
No, I know you did it. That's why. No, I know. That's why. But it's fun. Listen, it wouldn't be fun if I couldn't give you crap about it. I expect people to give me crap back. So listen, it's all good. I don't care. I do not care.
Big knock you had in the right center field gap. I feel like 3 managers got thrown out that day, and it was a game winner. Can you remember that
triple?
Day?
Walk-off triple.
Walk-off triple. That was so sick.
Before we dig in the Diamondbacks, I know we got to get to it because you got stuff to do. But I do have to tell this story. So David Ortiz we're facing David Price in Tampa, right? Ortiz would not play against David Price because we're just waiting for him to hit him. And so you're like, you guys come to me, you're like, you're DHing. And I'm like, wait, David Price is pitching. They're like, yeah, you got it. And I'm like, okay, guys, thank you. Right. So then Griffey's there. Griffey bets me dinner anywhere in the world. If I hit a homer, first pitch, I hit a 3-run homer and run around third base. I'm like, you owe me dinner, Griffey. Yeah. And David's like, I couldn't have done that. I'm like, exactly. So you got 1 decision right, guys.
There you go. I love that. I don't remember that. Are you making that up? I'm going to go to the books on that one.
No, true story. Ask David. True story.
Love it. All right.
I believe it. I love that you guys threw him in there against the lefty, too. That shows you exactly where he was getting DFA'd super soon. Let's get to the Diamondbacks. Let's get to the Diamondbacks. You know you're getting fired when you're getting the DH spot against the ace of the American League East. But anyway, let's get to your team. Not only did this team come very close to winning a World Series, last year they raised. You guys won more games than you did the year before when you made the World Series run. Was there a point in the end of the season where you guys felt that confidence? We're winning these games. No way we're not going to make the playoffs. No way this is going to happen. And yet you looked up at the end of the year and you were all watching games and it didn't work out for you.
Yeah, that's the really frustrating part of how the year ended up. I was so proud of what we did and what we accomplished during the course of last season. We won 89 games and we tied for the last position to enter, and we lost in a tiebreaker. So we live in that space. We talk about that space, and every little detail, every little inch matters here. So it's just really going to amplify my message this spring training that we can't lose any moments, and we got to go out there and close deals and win every game we're supposed to. But I was so proud of what we did in the final stretch. We hit a little dry patch in early August, and that's something that we've done over the past few years, where that early August we hit a little speed bump, and we got to figure out how to avoid those. But we were well in control of our own destiny. We had everything going in the right direction. And you guys know what it's like when you wake up and you go to the ballpark and you just know when you look at the guys that they got it under control. You look at the group that's going to go out there and compete, and they make the staff and the coaches and the manager feel better because they're going to go out there and win baseball games. We won a lot of baseball games. We just came up half a game short, and that's where we're going to make up a big difference this year and try and undo that and make something good happen.
One of the ways that you can undo that is by getting an ace added to your already really good starting rotation. How quickly did the whole Burns thing start to culminate and all of a sudden look at it and you're like, what was your reaction when you're like, this actually might happen?
Yeah, I got a phone call. Actually, I got a text. I was on an airplane coming back from Buffalo, New York, where my wife is born and raised, so we spent a lot of time there in the offseason. And I was on an airplane and getting a text message from our owner, like, why aren't you picking up your phone? Where are you? What's going on? And I'm like, oh my God. I talk to him probably 7 to 10 times a year, once or twice by phone or text. Mostly it's in person. And I'm thinking, what is happening? So I said, I'll call you as soon as I land. I did. And he said to me that the Corbin Burns thing has fallen into our lap. He's talked about how eager he is to play for the Arizona Diamondbacks for an assortment of reasons, and we want to close this gap up and try and make something happen. How do you feel? What do you know about him? And we just started to vet the whole process. And really within 36 hours, our owner had basically done that deal and made it happen. So we're very grateful for the great ownership that we have. And what it does is it takes us from a team that is, really out there grinding, to a team that is strongly considered to go out and win a lot of baseball games and hopefully stand at the top of the mountain at the end of the year. My first conversation with Corbin was, hey, congrats, you're here. We're so proud of that. And he says, you ready to win a SHIT ton of games? Because I'm going to go out there and help this team go to where they want to go to. So when I heard that, I was like, let's get the season started right now.
Nice. Of course, you better listen.
Yeah,
you got some interesting rotation options. You obviously have a bullpen options. You have lineup options. Is there pressure on you and the Diamondbacks after the Corbin Burnes signing? Does this ramp up the pressure along with being in the Dodgers division, who's going to go undefeated and win 162 games? So how much pressure is on you and your team?
For sure. And that's what we signed up for, right? I can only control one thing, and that's to manage the Arizona Diamondbacks. And there's pressure on me every single day to respond, to react, to do the right thing, to make good baseball decisions, have the right baseball conversations. So nothing's going to change for me. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is an industry where it's full of pressure, and you got to perform. If you don't perform, you get fired and you're out. So I don't worry about that. I believe in these players. I believe in the relationships that have been built. I believe in the relationships that I've built with them that's going to enable them to go out there and be the best version of themselves and perform pressure-free, because the game is hard enough. So I try to eliminate that. I remember what it was like as a player. I felt like I had to go 5 for 4 every single day. Either I was going to get fired or sent down. So I try to eliminate that barrier, and I just tell them, go out and be the best version of yourself. Let's train that way. Let's talk about that, and let's see where that leads us. And it seems to have worked. But, yeah, there's pressure on this team, no doubt. We embrace what happens inside of our division. You got the Padres. You got the Dodgers. They're going to do what they do, and we love that challenge. We go out there and play the best baseball game the Arizona Diamondbacks can play.
2 parts to this question. Ken Kendrick came out and said some things about Jordan Montgomery after a disappointing year for Jordan Montgomery. What is his status going to be for you guys going forward? He's part of that 6 men that you have in the rotation. But also, how do you approach one of your players like that when an owner comes out in public and says what Ken Kendrick said, right or wrong?
Yeah, correct. That's the owner of our baseball team, and he's entitled to say anything that he wants to. And we knew that there were going to be some pieces to pick up, and understandably so. I reached out to Jordan, and I just let him offload. I said, hey, I'm aware of, and I gave him some time. I let it simmer a little bit. I didn't call him the next day. I called him about a week later and just said, how you doing? Where are you at? And this is what's happening today. We're living in the present. How are we going to make this better and move the ball downfield? And he was able to offload a little bit, and he made a commitment to this group, to me, to this organization, that he was going to come into this spring training in the best shape of his life. And he looks great. I could already tell, when somebody walks in the door and they've dropped as much weight as he has, they had a really, really disciplined offseason, and they're ready to go out there and pull the trigger and make good things happen. And I'll approach it the same way I always do, with honesty. And to be honest, the situation is there's so much uncertainty. There is a ton of uncertainty with starter 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm gonna outline that to the guys. I don't know what's gonna happen. Your performance, the way you go out there and conduct your business, is gonna really matter from this point moving forward. And we got to make some tough decisions.
Torey, best shape of his life. I love that line. How much did spring training missing affect him? I love that. Oh, I'm in the best shape of my life. Oh, everyone's always in the best shape of their life, right? I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes people are round is a shape too. Okay, let's not forget that. But
okay, this is what you're so good at. You that was a quick detail I threw in there because you have heard it, right? Oh, this guy's in the best shape of his life, and he comes in and he's crazy. Pulling out of his uniform. I know, I totally get it. But I saw him. I put eyes on him. No, I saw him myself.
Listen, Monty's awesome. So I can't. He's been awesome. He's pitched awesome. He's won World Series, the whole deal. But how much do you think? I want to know how much missing spring training affected him. Because he came out and said that. Remember last year when he got to you guys late, he's like, man, this missing spring training thing was a bigger deal than I thought. So now he gets a full off season, a full spring training. How much better do you think he can be?
Okay, I'm a firm believer in spring training. Maybe 6 weeks is a little long. I know there's a buildup for pitchers. I totally understand that, but it's that special time, AJ, when you form relationships, when you get to know your teammates, you establish the bonds. And for me, there's no greater relationship than a pitcher and catcher. Like they talk about the middle infielders. I was a middle infielder, and I could play with different shortstops at different points in time. It didn't really matter, but that pitcher catcher thing is pretty special, and they got to know what each is thinking and have that nonverbal communication. And then you throw in the person. Look, I know Roger Clements and the big unit did it totally differently. They could go off on their own and come in the next day and throw up nothing but zeros. Jordan is a get to know you type of guy. He's one of the dudes. He wants to get to know who he is and his space, and you just start to feel comfortable inside of a clubhouse. And you can't fast forward that. When you get dropped into it from outer space in the middle of a season, that's really challenging. You're missing cues with your teammates. You're missing cues with your pitching coach. How are you wanting to get coached? And that's one of the first questions I ask new players is like, how do you want me to coach you? How do you want this relationship to take place? Because I want to be versatile as possible to make sure that I get the most out of you and that you get the most out of me. So I'm establishing that right now. Actually, I started with some phone calls a couple weeks ago, but that's what I'm going to do right now. I didn't have that with Jordan, and I know how important that is to him and his personality. So the spring training is going to be a big one for him.
2020, I caught Jordan every one of his spring training starts before we shut down for COVID, and that was the best shape he had been in his life. He dedicated himself. He was svelte, and then he went back to being the American Missile and put on a few LBs during COVID. So if he's in that shape, it's going to be good because he was sitting 94, 97, popping some 98s. It was exciting, that spring training. But has anybody ever come up to you and been like, Skip, Torey, I'm in the worst shape of my life? Has anybody ever been honest in that sense? Because I remember Jabba Chamberlain even came out one year and was like, yeah, look at me. I got a 4-pack up here. You can see like a few abs. Everybody says that in spring training.
No, that's a good question, Erik. I've never heard somebody say like, I didn't do jack squat and I'm starting from ground zero. The return players from the spring training 2.0 after COVID, a couple said to me, I'm like, what have you done? A couple said, I didn't think we were going to play baseball. I haven't picked up a baseball the entire time. I'm like, oh God, we're in trouble here. So that's as close as I've come to somebody saying that I'm really out of shape. But once again, our eyes don't lie. You can tell when somebody's coming in and those buttons are popping through the uniform, and that's not a good sign. And once we see that, we're dedicated to like, hey man, like we see it, we know it, go out and fix it. We got to do this with you. We're going to figure out a game plan together.
All right, last one for me. You lost Gold at first base. You lost a guy in Christian Walker. You replaced him with Naylor. Naylor's coming in after the season he had. How do you assimilate him into the clubhouse after losing a quiet leader in Christian, but a clear leader, veteran, been around Arizona for a while, knowing he's really only a one-year rental?
Yeah, look, at Christian Walker meant so much to this organization. He'd been here through some really good times, really dark times, and then come out the other side where we've had a lot of success over the past couple of years. So anytime you got to say goodbye to somebody like that, who, once again, probably you talk about that nonverbal communication. I could basically raise my finger from the dugout and get his attention and give him some information. Same thing in the dugout. He'd walk by me and he'd grunt at me and I'd say something to him and it was a done deal. So that's hard to replace, but we have a lot of very capable guys that have been here long enough to understand that, and how Josh fits in is just to go out and be himself. I know that, look, there's some all-star numbers in there. There's some all-star years in there, and this guy goes out and kills the baseball. So we don't want him to be anything different, anything other than what he's been. His prep work and what he does to lead up to these past seasons, we want it to be the same. He came to camp yesterday, got a chance to meet him for the first time. And look, I've been a big fan of his. He comes with some intensity, a lot of intensity, and a really, really good at-bat. So I think he's going to fit right into this program.
All right, Torey, last thing before we let you go. I know we talked about this earlier, pressure. I know there's pressure on y'all. Because guess what? I have the Fox Master schedule, and Arizona has games on it this year. Not only on the road where I saw you last year, but also at Chase Field. Okay, so that means that there are expectations. Because if you're not expected to be good, You don't make that schedule. So congratulations to you guys. The one ballpark I have left to do a game in is Arizona. So I'm hoping this year I get my chance to come sit with you. Maybe you can buy me dinner in your home ballpark. I'll take hot dogs, whatever you guys have there, and we can chat in your home office for once.
Let's go. I would love that. That'd be an honor for me to sit down with you, AJ. Look, you played this game a long time. There's some wisdom in there, and I will definitely love to tap into that. And look, you're right. I think when you get on different schedules, right, you get that ESPN Sunday night game, then you got to fly to the other coast at midnight, right? Like that means we've arrived. So that's the next step for the Arizona Diamondbacks we try to stay away from the word expectation. Like the new standard of being an Arizona Diamondback means you're going to have to do things like this. And how are we going to find a way to get out of it, win a baseball game today, and get on a plane tomorrow and do the exact same thing? It's the same game. It's 90 feet down the line, 6 feet 6 inches. Let's go out and do our thing and let it roll.
I picture Pierzynski walking in, Fox is here to Arizona.
Yeah, right. And by the way, he never asked me about what I did. He never asked me what I did before spring training.
Nothing. I know you didn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of these, a little bit of this.
I never did that. People don't believe me.
Not a grinder.
Yeah.
Not a grinder.
Throw, but I would never hit.
He's a natural.
These hands
well, Torey, this was awesome, dude. We'll actually be in Arizona too. Not me, but some of our guys. Hopefully they'll see you there. And good luck in spring training. We'll talk soon. Thanks for the time, man. Good to see you.
All right, Bronny, you too. See you, boys. Have a good one.
Appreciate you. You too. Torey Lovullo, manager of the Diamondbacks. Be right back. Aaron Boone had a little notable quote. BetMGM futures stolen bases. Lawrence Butler, 19.5. Over under for Law Dog, who came on real strong in the second half last year. Good dude. Made the adjustments that he needed. Ended up with, wait for it, 18 stolen bags last season in 412 ABs. How many plate appearances? 451 plate appearances. I do not know where he's going to be hitting in the lineup. 131 OPS plus, just to help tell the story of a guy who had a ridiculously good year at the plate. If you think he's going to be healthy, is he not going to get to that shiny 20 number? Guys that are at that 18, 19, right? Don't they want to hit the 20? Yeah.
Over
right?
For sure. This dude's looking to step up to be an all-star. He's not looking to hit milestones. He's going to end his plate discipline improved as the season went on, creating harder contact, creating more times that they had to, that they're going to pitch around him. Where he's going to, obviously if Rooker's hitting behind him, you might not get walked as much, but this is a dude that improved as the season went on. Easy over. I'm locking it in today.
Agreed. He's young. Although the A's didn't really want to steal bases, he's a guy that can steal bases. Yeah. I think he's a 25-25 guy.
Right. That's what holds you back a little is the team approach. And also he's actually about mid-range on StatCast metrics for his sprint speed. He's 58th percentile from last year. I don't know. I feel like he's faster than that. So I'm giving it to him.
0 caught stealing. That's the other reason. The A's will let you run if you're, I think it's 82 or 87%. I forget what it is. 87 sounds too high, but right. Yeah. 0 caught stealing.
There you go. Hey, if you want to book that, BetMGM Sportsbook app or BetMGM.com, sign up, put at least $10 into a new account. The code is FOUL, FOUL. As in foul territory. Place your first wager and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet does lose. If the bet loses, those bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. If your bet wins, woohoo, you won. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Be right back to go over Aaron Boone's reply to the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said again. Aaron Boone talking today about the Dodgers, quote, hopefully we're in that position next year and handle things with a little more class. Ooh-wee, Erik Kratz. You know Booney well. You played for him. Your thoughts?
He said it with his chest. They didn't appreciate it. Like Alex Verdugo's probably not like upset about it. Anthony Rizzo's probably not upset about it. But Booney is still with the Yankees. Aaron Judge is still with the Yankees. Dudes that feel like they were disrespected, they should feel disrespected by what the Dodgers said. And I think Booney, I give a lot of credit for Booney for being honest in this situation.
I love it. I freaking love it. You know why I love it? We need more trash talking. Let's go. Let's get rivalries going again. Like, yeah, you know what? They beat you, and then they talked about it. And they talked about how they were going to beat you, and they knew they were going to beat you, and they weren't afraid of it. I mean, who do we have on here? Someone from the Yankees the other day, and they were talking about, was it Kenley, somebody, and they were like, yeah, we didn't really appreciate that very much, right? Like the Dodgers beat them, and then they talked about beating them, and they were like, yeah, we knew we were going to win. They sucked, basically, is what they said. So I love this from Aaron Boone. He's basically not only standing up for his players, his organization, and he's also saying, if we play y'all again, we're coming to whoop your ass.
Mm-hmm. And the Yankees like to use that word. We're going to handle it with a little more class. We'll see if they end up obviously taking them down. I mean, the one thing the Dodgers can reply with is, yeah, but we're not going to be as sloppy as that fifth inning, so you're not going to be able to trash us the same way. That was part of it. They were like, yo, they weren't playing good baseball. It was part of it. That part was true. I also just appreciate the transparency from them, from the Dodgers.
The Dodgers didn't only just say, ooh, that was a bad fifth inning. They said the whole time, well, yeah, they were drinking too. You're right, AJ. But they said, we talked about it in our meeting. So that's like a full team diss. A full team, like, hey, scouting report said, just put the ball in play and they're not going to make the play, I think is what one of the Dodgers said. I'm not sure who said that. Chris Taylor, maybe. But they were drinking. They were sitting on the couch. Microphones are always hot.
Yeah. I like it. Anyway, coming right back with a little bit of Dodgers news, actually. They're in camp, so you're going to get more Dodgers-Cubs news before everyone else is in their positions. All right, I'm trying to get to a few questions here because once the show is done today, we are done at 2:57 Eastern time. Armand, who had a better offseason, the Angels or the Cubs? AJ first.
Cubs.
Cubs. Yeah, I just wanted to hear him say it.
No, the Cubs. The Cubs did. They got Tucker. They got a bat they needed. They also, with Presley, and then if they get Bregman, I mean, I said it the other day, this is an A-plus offseason for the Cubs.
Without Bregman, they still had a better offseason. I mean, anytime you add Tucker, the reason the Astros got rid of Tucker is because he's going to be way too costly after they see what Juan Soto got. You add that to your lineup, that is big. Definitely the Cubs. I love hearing AJ say it so easily, too.
Willard said, Scott, can you explain why the guest on Foul Territory said only pure hitters in baseball are Soto and Ohtani and Judge, and you guys being professionals it got cut off, but I don't remember this part.
No, I asked Craig about where they had who the top hitter was besides Ohtani, or who the top player was value-wise, and he said Judge and Soto is a top projected value players. I don't remember him talking about pure hitters.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Good. Glad we cleared that up. And lastly, one more prediction. Carlos asking, where does Bregman sign? Updated predictions. Houston. AJ. Houston.
With a baseball team? I don't know.
With a baseball?
You know what? You know what? I love Alex Bregman. I've said this, but we're getting to the Juan Soto point where I'm just like, just sign already. Like, I'm tired of talking about it every day. Can you please?
Well,
I actually think there might be a fight over the opt-out. Maybe he wants an opt-out, and the Astros are like, nah, it's 6-160. Say they got to now, but no opt-out. So we'll see.
Okay.
Man, so no answer. You don't know. You don't know where he's going to go.
No, I'm saying.
If I knew, I'd be Scott Boras. Yeah, I mean,
but predictions, because then people hold you to them. We all said Houston, but man, I would love to see Detroit get him. I just think that would really put them over the top in a division that is up for grabs. I feel like they could be a little bit short. They have such a hole at third base too. Whatever. It's just money. I think that Little Caesars ask the Illiches. Let's slap least surprising news ever. Kershaw's at Dodgers facility playing catch. This according to Alden Gonzalez. He and the Dodgers have agreed to terms on a contract per source. He still has to finish going through his physicals. So Kershaw's back. We'll see when he returns to the team, maybe mid-season-ish. What are you confused about, Kratz, that they already agreed?
Can't they just say we're waiting till the time when we can put him on the 60-day IL? And we don't have any 40-man roster spot? Don't say we're waiting on a physical.
Do you think they're going to flunk Clayton Kershaw's physical?
Not a chance. They're putting him right on the 60-day IL so they don't have to use a 40-man spot. That's why they haven't announced it. You don't just get to show up and play catch at the Dodgers facility.
All right.
He might.
Mr.
He might. He might.
Yeah.
He might actually.
Okay. He might. You're right.
He might be the one.
Legend. He can do it.
Regular people
turn your hat around.
Try it.
Exactly. Kratz hats, turn it around while I tell everyone Ken Rosenthal on tomorrow, Rocky storylines with Patrick Saunders, and Jack Flaherty and Logan O'Hoppe already booked for Thursday. What do you got? Ooh-wee.
Shocker, Jeremy. Shocker, Jeremy Myers showing the Boston hat. I can never get a one-shot. Now I can't get away from a one-shot with a Red Sox hat on. Monster territory. Don't be afraid to watch it.
Yeah, Monster Territory, great new show. Check it out. Do I see, is that Fort Myers on the side for you, Kratz? Yeah. I know it's on the side of the Gators hat, America.
No.
What we got?
Just Florida.
Oh, Florida. I thought there might have been an FT, which would have been cool. No.
FN.